Ethan arrived at Starpoint Station with wide eyes and a heart full of hope. The station was a busy place, floating quietly above a blue-green planet. Ships from many worlds docked every hour. Aliens of all shapes and colors walked the halls. Some had 3 arms, some floated, and some sparkled like living crystals. Ethan felt small and a little nervous, but he tried to keep his mind on the reason he came. He was here for the big technology convention. He loved fixing things and dreamed of meeting new people who built amazing machines. Ethan's job on Earth was not very exciting. He fixed old cargo ships and sometimes worked long hours alone in noisy hangars. He wanted something new. When he saw the invitation to Starpoint's annual tech convention, he used all his savings to buy a ticket. His friends at home called him brave, but he just laughed and said he was curious. Now, as he looked at the busy crowds and the bright lights of the space station, he wondered if he really was brave after all. He wandered through the large market hall. The air was cool and smelled strange, like fruit and metal at the same time. There were booths selling alien food, tiny robots, and clothes made of shiny silk. Ethan paused at a display of tools, admiring a spanner that could change shape with a push of a button. He wanted to buy it, but remembered his limited money. Maybe later, he told himself. A quiet voice spoke near him. Ethan turned and saw a young woman with skin that glowed softly, almost like moonlight. She had gentle eyes and long silver hair. She wore a simple blue dress with a symbol on her shoulder. Ethan guessed she was not human, but he didn't know what kind of alien she was. She seemed calm, almost peaceful, as she looked at the same tool he liked. She picked up the spanner and turned it in her hands. Then she looked at Ethan and smiled. He felt his face grow warm. The woman spoke in perfect English, her voice clear and soft. Is this for fixing engines? She asked. Ethan nodded. Yeah, it's really useful. I use one like that on Earth. The woman's eyes brightened. You are from Earth? I read about your planet. I am Lyra from Calaris. She spoke the name of her world with pride. Ethan could not help but smile back. I'm Ethan, he said. He reached out to shake her hand like people did on Earth. Lyra looked at his hand, confused but copied. His action, her touch was cool and light. Ethan laughed. Sorry, it's a greeting on Earth. Lyra laughed too. We greet by touching our foreheads, but I like your way. They stood there for a moment, not sure what to say next. Ethan wanted to ask her more questions, but he worried about being rude. Lyra seemed just as curious about him. She asked, Do you fix ships? Yes, I'm an engineer. What do you do? Lyra thought for a moment. I studied diplomacy and technology. My family helps make peace between different planets. I am here for the talks and to learn about new machines. Ethan was surprised. That sounds important. Lyra smiled again, a little shy. It can be, but sometimes it is lonely. He understood what she meant. He often felt lonely at work, too. They began to walk together, looking at the booths. Ethan showed her some human gadgets, and she explained the uses of strange Kalari devices. They tried a food sample which looked like blue jelly but tasted like honey and mint. Suddenly there was a loud crash. A small robot had bumped into a table, knocking over some glass jars. Shards flew everywhere. People shouted in many languages. Lyra moved fast, pulling Ethan back from the mess. He watched as she spoke calmly to the worried vendor and helped him pick up the broken pieces. Ethan joined in, careful not to cut his fingers. The vendor, a short green alien with big eyes, thanked them both. Lyra smiled and spoke in the vendor's language. Ethan was impressed. When Lyra finished, she turned to Ethan and said, Sometimes small things are the most important. He nodded. You're good with people. Lyra blushed, her cheeks turning a light shade of blue. Ethan realized he wanted to spend more time with her. He almost said it, but something stopped him. Maybe she would not be interested. Maybe he was just another strange human on the station. As they walked out of the market, the lights flickered for a second, then returned to normal. A voice came over the speakers, announcing the start of the tech convention. Ethan and Lyra joined the crowd heading to the main hall. He looked at her and smiled. She smiled back, and for a moment, he felt less nervous about being so far from home. Inside the hall, people and aliens were setting up displays of new machines. Ethan saw a few humans he recognized from Earth, but he stayed near Lyra. She introduced him to two Kalari students who wore silver bands on their wrists. They were polite, but seemed surprised to see Lyra with a human. Ethan listened as Lyra talked with them in her own language. He could not understand the words, but he saw that Lyra looked proud when she spoke about Earth. The students glanced at Ethan, then nodded and smiled politely. The opening speech began. An old woman with 6 arms welcomed everyone and spoke about the importance of working together. Ethan listened closely. The words were simple, but they made him think. He looked around at all the different beings. Here, in this big place, everyone was trying to learn, to trade, or just to get along. After the speech, Ethan and Lyra walked to a display of small flying drones. Ethan showed her how to control one, and Lyra laughed when it spun in a circle. They worked together to fix a broken drone, and soon a small group gathered to watch. Lyra's careful hands and Ethan's quick thinking made a good team. When they finished, the crowd clapped, and Lyra's eyes sparkled with happiness. Later, as the crowd thinned out, Lyra and Ethan stood at the edge of the hall. She thanked him for the company. Ethan tried to think of something clever to say, but just nodded, and said he hoped to see her again. Lyra smiled and said, "I would like that." Ethan walked back to his small room that night feeling light and hopeful. He had met someone new, someone special, and he wondered what would happen next. On Starpoint Station, anything seemed possible. The next morning, Ethan woke early. He could not sleep much because he kept thinking about Lyra. He remembered her quiet voice, her bright eyes, and how she laughed at the drone. He felt nervous, but he wanted to see her again. He dressed in his cleanest shirt and tried to make his hair neat. He hoped he would meet her somewhere at the tech convention. The main hall was busy again. New faces moved through the crowd. People carried boxes, tools, and strange machines. Some aliens wore bright colors, and some humans wore matching jumpsuits. Ethan walked slowly, looking for Lyra. He did not see her at first. Instead, he saw her 2 Kalari friends from yesterday. They nodded at him but did not stop to talk. Ethan tried not to feel worried. He went to a table where people were building small robots. He started to help, using his skill with wires and circuits. A tall man thanked him for fixing a problem with the robot's arm. For a while, Ethan forgot his nerves and just worked. Suddenly, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Hello, Ethan." He turned and saw Lyra. She wore a green dress today, with the same blue symbol on her shoulder. Her silver hair shone in the bright lights. Ethan smiled. "Hi, Lyra. I was hoping I'd see you today." Lyra smiled back. "I hope the same." She looked at the robot. "You are very good with machines," Ethan shrugged. "I've always liked fixing things my father showed me when I was a boy." Lyra looked interested. "We do not fix many things on Calaris. Most machines heal themselves, but I like to learn how to repair them." Ethan picked up a small tool and showed her how it worked. Lyra watched closely. She tried to copy him, her hands careful, but, little slow. He gently helped her with the wires. She thanked him and smiled again. They spent the morning working together. When they finished the robot, it danced in a small circle and played music. Lyra laughed, and so did Ethan. The others at the table clapped. Lyra's friends watched them from across the hall, whispering and glancing their way. Ethan noticed but tried not to care. Soon it was time for lunch. Lyra asked if Ethan wanted to try Kalari food with her in the dining area. He said yes at once. The dining room was large, with tables for every species. There were tall blue plants in the corners and big windows that showed the stars outside. Lyra ordered a plate of soft, glowing fruit. She offered some to Ethan. He took a bite and found it cool and sweet. He smiled. "This is good." Lyra was glad. "I always miss this fruit when I travel." She watched him carefully. "Does human food taste very different?" Ethan thought about it. "Some of it. Our food is not as pretty as this. But I can show you some Earth food later if you want." Lyra nodded. "I would like that." She seemed happy and a little shy. Ethan felt his own cheeks get warm. They talked about their lives. Lyra told Ethan about her family on Calaris. Her father was a leader in their government, and her mother helped teach young Kalari. Lyra said she wanted to travel, to learn new things, and to help other worlds work together. Ethan shared stories about Earth. He talked about his small town, the river where he liked to swim, and the machines he built as a boy. He tried to explain some Earth jokes, but Lyra only understood a few. Still, she laughed at his stories and listened closely. After lunch, they walked through the art gallery on the station. There were paintings and sculptures from many worlds. One painting showed a group of aliens and humans building a bridge together. Lyra stopped and looked at it for a long time. She said softly, "On Caloris, we sometimes think it is safer to stay with our own people, but I like meeting others. I want to know more about Earth too." Ethan nodded. "A lot of people on Earth are like that, but I think it's better when we all work together." They kept walking, stopping at a sculpture made from old ship parts. Lyra explained that Kalari artists often used recycled materials. Ethan liked the idea. He said he wanted to try building art from old machine parts someday. As the afternoon passed, Ethan and Lyra explored more of the station. They watched a group of kids play a floating ball game. They looked at the gardens where flowers glowed in the dim light. They even tried a human dessert at a small food stall. Lyra made a face at the sweetness, but she smiled and thanked Ethan for sharing it with her. People watched them as they walked together. Some humans waved at Ethan and smiled at Lyra. A few Kalari looked surprised, but no one said anything. Ethan noticed that Lyra seemed nervous when her own people stared, but she did not move away from him. They reached a quiet spot near the windows. The stars outside looked bright and close. Lyra stood quietly, her hands clasped in front of her. Ethan felt brave and spoke first. "I like spending time with you, Lyra. You're different from anyone I've met before." Lyra looked at him. "You are different too, Ethan. Most humans I meet are busy or afraid of us. But you are kind and curious." He wanted to tell her how much he liked her, but he was not sure how. He thought maybe he would scare her if he said too much too soon. Lyra seemed to sense his worry. She touched his arm gently. "Ethan, do you think it is strange for a human and a Kalari to be friends?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "No, I think it's a good thing." Lyra smiled softly. "I think so too." They stood in silence for a moment, just watching the stars. Then a voice called Lyra's name. It was her friend Myra, who waved from across the hall. Lyra said she had to go, but she hoped to see Ethan again tomorrow. He promised he would be there. After Lyra left, Ethan felt a little sad but also hopeful. He walked back to his room and lay on his bed, looking at the ceiling. He replayed every moment in his mind. He wondered what Lyra was thinking, and if she felt as happy as he did. That night, as the station grew quiet and the lights dimmed, Ethan fell asleep dreaming of new worlds, new friends, and of Lyra's gentle smile. He did not know what would happen next, but he was sure he wanted to find out. The next day, Ethan woke up before his alarm. He felt excited but also a little worried. He wanted to see Lyra again, but he wondered if she still wanted to spend time with him. He got ready quickly and hurried to the convention hall, hoping to find her before the crowds arrived. When Ethan entered the hall, the place was busy and full of noise. He walked through the rows of machines and booths, searching for Lyra's silver hair. He almost gave up, but then he saw her near the back, talking with a group of Kalari. She looked beautiful and calm in a light purple dress. When she saw Ethan, her face brightened and she waved. Ethan smiled and walked over. Lyra's friends looked at him with curious eyes. They spoke softly in their own language. Lyra said a few words to them, then turned to Ethan. "Good morning, Ethan," she said, her voice cheerful. "I was hoping to see you again." Ethan felt his nerves fade away. "Good morning, Lyra. I missed you yesterday afternoon." Lyra nodded. "I had meetings with my family. Sometimes they are very serious." She gave him a small smile. "But I wanted to come back here and see more with you." The two walked away from the group and began exploring new displays. Ethan showed Lyra a human drone that could paint pictures on walls. Lyra showed Ethan a Kalari music box that played songs with light instead of sound. They laughed together as they tried to guess how the strange devices worked. while they were playing with the music box. A group of young humans came over. They asked Ethan to join them for a competition, a game to see who could build the fastest robot from spare parts. Ethan wanted to join, but he did not want to leave Lyra. Lyra saw his face and smiled. "Go with them, Ethan. I will watch you. I want to see how good you are." Ethan nodded and joined the game. He worked quickly, using the skills he learned back home. He made a small, speedy robot with strong legs. The other humans cheered him on. When the race began, Ethan's robot won. Lyra clapped her hands and laughed. She looked proud of him. After the game, Ethan walked back to Lyra. "Did you see that?" he asked, still smiling. "Yes, you were very fast," she said. "I wish I could build robots like that." "I can teach you," Ethan replied. "It's not so hard once you learn the basics." Lyra's eyes shone. "I would like that very much." They spent the next hour together, with Ethan teaching Lyra how to put together a simple robot. Lyra listened carefully and followed his instructions. Sometimes their hands touched as they worked, and both felt a quiet happiness in those moments. Suddenly a loud voice interrupted them. It was an older Kalari, dressed in important robes. He looked at Lyra and spoke in a serious tone. Lyra's face changed and she looked worried. She answered him quietly in her language. Ethan waited, not sure what was happening. After a short talk, the older Kalari walked away. Lyra turned to Ethan with a sad look. "That was my uncle," she said softly. "He does not like that I spend time with humans. He thinks it is not proper." Ethan felt angry and sad at the same time. "Did he tell you not to talk to me?" Lyra shook her head. "He cannot order me, but he wants me to remember our families. Names, sometimes on Calaris people are afraid of change." Ethan nodded. "People on Earth can be like that too. But I like spending time with you." "I don't care what anyone thinks," Lyra smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. They sat quietly for a few moments, just watching the crowd. Then Ethan took a deep breath. He remembered what his friends back home always said, "Sometimes you have to take a chance." He looked at Lyra and said, "Lyra, I know we are different, but I like you. Would you like to go out with me like the way humans do?" Lyra looked surprised. For a moment she just stared at Ethan, her eyes wide. On Calaris, people did not ask each other out like this. It was direct, honest, and very bold. She was not sure how to answer. Other people near them heard Ethan's question and stopped to watch. Some Kalari looked shocked, and even some humans seemed surprised, but Ethan did not move. He just waited for Lyra's answer. Lyra's cheeks turned blue with embarrassment. She looked down at her hands, then up at Ethan. "No one has ever asked me like that," she said quietly. "On my world, we wait for years sometimes, but you are brave, Ethan." Ethan smiled, trying to hide how nervous he felt. "I just want to get to know you better. Maybe we can have dinner together, or just talk." Lyra thought for a long moment. Then she looked up, and a small smile appeared on her face. "Yes, I would like that, Ethan." The people around them began to whisper. Some Kalari frowned, but others looked curious. A few humans even cheered quietly. Ethan felt proud and happy. He reached out his hand. Lyra took it, her hand cool and gentle. "Let's go somewhere quiet," Ethan said. They left the busy hall and walked toward the garden, still holding hands. Both felt the eyes of others on them, but they did not care. For the first time, Ethan felt truly brave. Lyra felt excited, too, and a little scared, but also free. In the quiet garden, they found a bench near the glowing flowers. Ethan told Lyra more about Earth customs, and Lyra explained Kalari ways. They laughed about their differences and found things they had in common. As the lights of the station changed for the evening, Ethan looked at Lyra and said, "I'm glad I asked you." Lyra smiled and said, "I'm glad you did too." The stars outside the window seemed closer that night, and for Ethan and Lyra, the whole universe felt new. After their evening in the garden, Ethan and Lyra met every day on the space station. Each time they saw each other, they learned something new. Ethan showed Lyra how to fix simple machines, and Lyra taught Ethan words in her language. They shared food, stories, and jokes. Sometimes they just sat together, looking at the stars or listening to the soft music from the Kalari music box, but not everyone was happy about their friendship. Some Kalari watched them closely and whispered behind Lyra's back. A few humans warned Ethan to be careful. There were rules and old ideas that did not like the idea of a human and a Kalari growing close. Lyra's uncle, the important Kalari leader, gave her long talks and asked her to remember her duty. He wanted her to make friends, but only with other Kalari or with people who would help the family. Lyra listened, but her mind was on Ethan. Morning, the station was busy with people preparing for a big meeting. Leaders from many planets would talk about new trade and peace. Lyra's father and uncle were both important at this meeting. Lyra was supposed to help, but her thoughts kept returning to Ethan. She wondered what he was doing and if he missed her. Ethan, on the other side of the station, was trying to fix a broken food dispenser. He thought about Lyra and the quiet way. She smiled. He wanted to see her soon. He hoped nothing would keep them apart. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the station. Lights flashed red, and a voice on the speakers called for everyone to stay calm. There was a problem in the main energy room. The doors to many areas locked for safety, and people began to panic. Some ran, while others tried to call for help. Ethan was stuck in a hallway with a group of humans and aliens. Lyra was trapped in a meeting room with her family. Ethan's heart pounded. He heard that something was wrong with the energy core, and if it was not fixed, the whole station could lose power. He knew he had to do something. He looked for a way out and found a small vent he could fit through. With the help of a small alien, he pushed open the vent and crawled into the dark passage. Lyra was worried for her father and uncle, but also for Ethan. She knew he would not stay still if something was broken. She tried to send him a message on her small communicator, but the network was down. She looked at her uncle and said, "I can help. Let me go to the control room." Her uncle frowned. "It is not safe, Lyra. Stay here with your family." But Lyra was brave. She slipped out a side door when no one was watching. She remembered the path to the energy room. Her heart was beating fast as she ran down the empty halls. Ethan moved through the vent, feeling the metal walls scrape his arms. He finally found a way out near the energy room. He saw smoke coming from under the door. He pulled his toolkit from his bag and took a deep breath. He pushed open the door and ran inside. The room was full of noise and smoke. Sparks flew from broken wires. The big engine that powered the station was making a strange sound. Ethan saw a group of engineers trying to stop the damage, but they looked scared and tired. Ethan stepped forward and shouted, "I can help." The chief engineer nodded, and Ethan ran to the main panel. He saw that a cooling system was broken. If they did not fix it soon, the engine would overheat. Just then, Lyra rushed into the room. She saw Ethan at the controls and ran to his side. She called out, "Ethan, I knew you would be here." Ethan smiled at her. "I need your help, Lyra. Hold this wire while I reset the system." Lyra nodded, and together they worked fast. Ethan's hands were quick, but he needed Lyra's help to reach some small parts. Lyra followed his instructions and did not stop. Even when the smoke made her cough, other engineers watched them, surprised at how well they worked together. A few of the Kalari whispered to each other, but one said, "Let them try. They know what they are doing." The minutes passed slowly. Ethan fixed the cooling system, and Lyra checked the power levels. At last, the loud alarm stopped. The engine started to sound normal again. The chief engineer checked the controls and smiled. "It is working. You saved the station." Everyone in the room cheered. Ethan and Lyra looked at each other, tired, but happy. For a moment, they forgot about the people watching them. The station's main lights came back on. The doors unlocked and people could move freely again. News of what Ethan and Lyra did spread quickly. Some were surprised, others proud, but a few Kalari were not happy. Lyra's uncle looked very serious. He called Lyra and Ethan to speak. With him, they followed him to a quiet room. The uncle said, "You have done something very brave, but you have also broken rules. Lyra, you risked your safety and left your family. Ethan, you acted without permission. You could have been hurt." Ethan stood tall. "I could not just do nothing. I had to help. Lyra helped too." Together we fixed it, Lyra nodded. We worked as a team. It did not matter that I am Kalari and Ethan is human. We both wanted to save the station. The uncle was quiet for a long time. At last he said, maybe I was wrong to worry so much about our rules. Today you showed that friendship and trust can do more than old ideas. He looked at Lyra. But you must still be careful. There are people who do not want change. Lyra promised to be careful. Ethan promised too. They left the room together, feeling both tired and proud. They knew things might be hard for a while, but they also knew they could trust each other. That night they walked in the garden again. They did not speak much, but they smiled at each other. They both knew that they had changed something on the station, and maybe even in their own hearts. The stars looked a little brighter, and the future did not seem so scary anymore. Ethan woke up to a new day on the space station. The lights in his room were soft and blue. He lay in bed for a moment, thinking about everything that happened. He and Lyra had saved the station together. It felt almost like a dream. He hoped things would be easier now, but deep inside he knew there would still be problems. Not everyone wanted to see a human and a Kalari working together, or being friends, or something more. He got up, washed his face, and dressed quickly. He looked at his small communicator and saw a message from Lyra. It was short but sweet. She wrote, "Meet me in the gardens when you can. I want to talk." Ethan felt happy and a little nervous. He wondered what Lyra wanted to say. When he reached the gardens, Lyra was waiting by the glowing flowers. She wore a simple blue dress and her hair was tied back. She smiled when she saw Ethan and waved him over. Ethan stood beside her. "Hi?" "Lyra, I got your message." Lyra looked serious but kind. "Ethan, I wanted to thank you for yesterday. You did not have to risk your life, but you did. You helped save everyone." Ethan shook his head. "You did just as much. We were a team." Lyra touched a flower and looked at him. "My family was upset. They worry about what people will say. They think it is not safe for me to be so close to you." She paused. "But I do not care what they think. I feel happy when I am with you. I want to keep seeing you." Ethan felt relief wash over him. He smiled. "I want that too. I don't care about the old rules. I just want to be with you." They sat down together and talked for a long time. Lyra told Ethan more about her world and her family. She said her father was slowly changing his mind, but her uncle was still strict. Ethan shared stories about his home, about his mother, and how she always encouraged him to be kind to others. While they were talking, a group of Kalari students walked by. They stopped and stared for a moment. One of them, a tall boy named Yalan, came closer. He said, "Lyra, is it true? Did you really save the station with this human?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, Ethan is my friend. We work together." Yalan looked at Ethan, then back at Lyra. "A lot of Kalari are talking about you. Some say you are brave. Others say you are making a mistake." Lyra stood up. She spoke clearly and with courage. "We helped everyone, not just humans or Kalari. Maybe it is time for new ways of thinking. We cannot stay afraid of each other forever." Yalan was quiet. Then he nodded slowly. "Maybe you are right, Lyra." He smiled a little at Ethan. "Thank you for helping us." After Yalan and the others left, Ethan turned to Lyra. "That was brave." "You stood up for us," Lyra smiled. "I am tired of being afraid. I want people to see that humans and Kalari can be friends. Maybe more than friends." Her voice was soft, but her words were strong. Later that day there was a big meeting in the main hall. Leaders from different planets stood on a stage. Lyra's father spoke to the crowd. He thanked everyone who helped during the emergency. He said, "On this station, we all depend on each other. It does not matter where you are from or what you look like. We are safer together." Ethan watched from the back of the room. Lyra stood near her family. When her father finished, she walked to the front. People in the crowd began to whisper. Lyra took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. "I am Lyra of Calaris," she said. "I want to thank everyone who helped save the station. I want to say that sometimes rules must change. I worked with Ethan, a human. He is my friend. He is brave, kind, and honest. I am not ashamed of my friendship. I hope others will not be afraid to make friends across the stars." The hall was silent for a moment. Then slowly people began to clap. First the humans, then some Kalari, then others from different worlds. Lyra's uncle looked very serious, but her father smiled at her. Ethan's heart beat fast. He was proud. Of Lyra, he wished he could run to the front and hug her, but he stayed where he was after the meeting. Many people came to thank Lyra and Ethan. Some asked questions about the repairs. Others just wanted to shake their hands or say hello. A young girl from Earth ran up and said, "You are my hero." Lyra blushed and laughed. That night, Ethan and Lyra met again in the garden. The sky outside was full of bright stars. They walked slowly, talking about everything that happened. Lyra said, "I think things will change now." "Maybe not fast, but little by little," Ethan nodded. "You were brave today. I never saw anyone stand up like that." Lyra looked at him with kind eyes. "You gave me courage. I used to worry about rules and what others thought, but now I just want to follow my heart." Ethan took her hand gently. "We'll face things together, whatever happens." They stood close, feeling safe and happy. Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. For the first time, she felt free from worry. Ethan felt stronger with her beside him. Before they left, Lyra said, "Tomorrow there is a dance in the main hall. Will you come with me, Ethan?" Ethan grinned. "Yes, I would like that very much." As they walked away, the lights of the station seemed brighter. They did not know what would come next, but they were ready for it. Together they felt they could do anything. The day of the dance came quickly. The whole space station was decorated with colorful banners and lights. People from many different planets walked through the halls in their finest clothes. Some wore traditional robes, while others dressed in bright suits or long flowing dresses. Music played softly in the background, and the air felt full of hope and excitement. Ethan stood in front of his small mirror, trying to smooth out the wrinkles in his shirt. He felt nervous but happy. He had never been to a dance with someone as special as Lyra. He wondered if he would look strange to her family and friends, but he did not want to hide his feelings. He wanted everyone to know he was proud to be by Lyra's side. Lyra was also getting ready. She wore a dress made of soft silver fabric that caught the light and shimmered as she moved. She braided her silver hair and wore a small blue flower behind her ear. Her mother helped her tie a ribbon around her waist. "You look beautiful," her mother said, smiling. Lyra felt happy and hugged her. When Ethan arrived at the main hall, he saw a large crowd. There were tables with food from many worlds, and dancers were already moving in the center of the room. He saw Lyra across the hall. She was talking to some Kalari elders. When she saw Ethan, she smiled and walked over to him. "You look nice." "Ethan?" she said softly. Ethan smiled back. "You look amazing, Lyra." They stood together, feeling a little shy. Then the music changed, and someone invited them to join the dance. At first they were both unsure. Kalari dances were slow and graceful, with soft steps and gentle turns. Ethan watched the others and copied their moves. Lyra showed him how to move his hands and feet. Soon, they were laughing as they tried to dance together. People watched them as they danced. Some smiled, while others looked surprised. A few Kalari elders whispered to each other, but Lyra did not care. She held Ethan's hand and felt proud. Ethan felt the same. He looked into Lyra's eyes and saw trust and happiness. After the dance, they went to the food tables. Lyra tried some human food, and Ethan tasted a sweet Kalari dessert. They shared stories and made each other laugh. Other young people joined them. Some were human, some Kalari, and some from other worlds. Everyone was curious about Ethan and Lyra. They asked questions about Earth and Caloris, about their friendship, and how they fixed the station together. Ethan answered honestly, "I was just doing what I knew. I wanted to help." Lyra was brave, too. She never gave up, even when things were hard. Lyra added, "We trusted each other. We listened and learned from each other. That is what made us strong." As the night went on, the mood in the hall changed. People were dancing, eating, and talking. There were fewer whispers and more smiles. Some elders even nodded with approval. It felt like things were starting to change. Lyra's uncle was at the back of the room. He watched Ethan and Lyra carefully. After a while, he came over. His face was serious, but his voice was calm. "Lyra, Ethan, may I speak with you?" he asked. They nodded and followed him to a quiet corner. The uncle looked at them for a long time. "I was wrong to judge you so quickly," he said. "You both did something good for the station. You showed courage and teamwork. I still worry about what others will say, but I see that you care for each other. I will not stand in your way." Lyra felt relief. "Thank you, Uncle." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, sir." The uncle turned to Lyra. "You are my family. I want you to be happy. Just remember, not everyone changes their mind so easily. There will still be some who do not. Accept your friendship." Lyra nodded. "I understand, but I am not afraid anymore." After the talk, Ethan and Lyra returned to the dance floor. The music was lively now, and more people joined in. Lyra's father and mother danced together. Even some of the elders tried the human style of dancing and laughed at their mistakes. Later, Ethan and Lyra went out to the viewing deck. The stars outside the windows looked close and bright. They stood side by side, looking out at the endless space. "I never thought my life would be like this," Ethan said. "I used to dream about fixing ships and seeing other planets, but I never thought I would meet someone like you." Lyra smiled softly. "I never thought I would meet a human who was so open and kind. You helped me see the world differently." Ethan took her hand. "I'm glad we met." Lyra looked into his eyes. "Me too." They talked about the future. Lyra said she wanted to visit Earth one day and see Ethan's home. Ethan wanted to visit Caloris and meet Lyra's family. They planned to keep learning from each other, no matter where they went. Suddenly, fireworks exploded outside the station. Bright colors lit up the sky. Everyone on the viewing deck cheered. Ethan and Lyra stood close together, watching the beautiful lights. People started talking about Ethan and Lyra as a symbol of hope. They said that if a human and a Kalari could trust each other, maybe others could too. New friendships began to form between different species. Some people started planning more dances and dinners, hoping to bring everyone together. As the party ended and people left for their rooms, Ethan and Lyra stayed on the deck. They did not want the night to end. They felt proud of what they had done, but more than that, they felt happy to have found each other. Ethan looked at Lyra and said, "No matter what happens, I will always be your friend." Lyra smiled and squeezed his hand. "And I will always be yours." The space station was quiet again. The stars shone down on them, and for the first time, it felt like the whole universe was smiling with them.